Supernatural Season 14, Episode 15, Peace of Mind. I really love this episode. It was definitely one of those kind of in-between episodes where, for the most part, it was definitely a filler episode. But they did touch on a little bit. We got to kind of figure out what was going on exactly with Jack. Like, does he have a bit of soul? Is he completely soulless? As I figured, he's not completely soulless. Just the way he was acting, it didn't seem that way. Even in the very beginning of the episode where he's like, I feel different and stuff like that. I was like, I'm pretty sure he still has, a part of his soul. He doesn't seem like he's just, completely cold and callous like Sam used to be. So we have Donatello return, so they kind of have that conversation of what it feels like to be soulless versus, what Jack is currently feeling like. So Donatello, amongst being Donatello, I guess, kind of lets Dean know, like, hey, I'm pretty sure, you just keep an eye on him, but I wouldn't say that he's, completely soulless. So I was like, all right, that's very interesting. They do, of course, have the ending of the episode where Jack, he's like, Sam and Dean would help you, but the way that he does it is by killing the snake. So it's like, he has the basic form of it. So, it was, I thought it was a good way to represent exactly how much of his soul he has left, because it was like, okay, well, Sam and Dean would help you, so that's what I'm going to do, and I'll let you see your friend again in heaven. And basically, it was him performing, a mercy kill, which isn't exactly, what Sam and Dean would really do. So I thought that was kind of cool. And it's funny that that's kind of the route he would take, is where it was just like, it's just helping. But, it kind of shows that level of where he's at as far as how much of his soul is really gone. Because that was the idea he had. When he went with help, it was like, well, I'll just kill you so you can see your friend again. I was like, okay, that's an interesting way, for him to kind of solve that problem. So, that's how we're going to end the episode out. So we'll see how things kind of progress, going forward. But really love the episode for, like, the main story, which was this really crazy 50s Pleasantville type setting where, we have Sam and Cass actually go on a mission by themselves, and they end up in this random, really weird town. And, it starts off in the very beginning where it's this kid, he runs to this girl, and it's like, she's like, I can't go with you. So he takes off. And he goes to, this convenience store, his head explodes, the dude vomits and stuff like that, which I thought was interesting. I was surprised they actually showed him throw up, but I think it was, especially because it looked, like, so realistic, but I think it was because he was in the background, they were, like, super focused on him. I was like, oh, they actually, like, showed him completely vomit and everything, but they go through that process of having this guy die, and then we have Sam and Cass show up in this town, and it's like, okay, they run into people, and it's like, all right, well, that's super weird, everyone's, everyone's waving to the crosswalk guard who's got a stop sign up and weird stuff like that. And they run into this couple where it's like, oh, we had some questions to ask. And so, Sam's like, oh, the guy's like, yeah, what's that you're holding? He's like, it's my cell phone. He's like, cell phone? Like, it was super weird. So I was trying to figure out the whole episode, like, well, what in the world is happening here? So it was kind of this weird blend where it was like, someone basically, rewriting things, which is kind of what it ended up being, or was it like some weird, obviously we've gone through a lot of time-based shenanigans in this series. So I was like, is something super weird happening here where it's time-based, but they're still within current time, and it's just this really weird thing. So I was trying to figure out, like, what is going on here? Like, I couldn't really tell. The only thing I knew, of course, was that the girl, that worked at the malt shop, I knew she was involved in some way, shape, or form, because, of course, she was there in the very beginning. And so the guy knew something was wrong, and she's just like, oh, I can't go with you. So it was very clear from the beginning. I was like, all right, well, something is very relevant in her situation, like, or her being involved in it is, very clear. So going through the episode, the guys, and I love some of the comedy in this episode, because when they leave the little couple and they walk across the street, and it's like, oh, you guys must be the feds we heard about. And it was like, we just walked across the street. We've been here for 5 minutes. Like, it's a small town. So I thought that was really funny. And I just like the way it was handled. Like, a lot of the comedy was just really silly and weird. And, we can see things start to play out with Sam as he goes through. It's like, he has the milkshake. It's like, okay. Which I love the fact that they referenced that, because the guy was like, what did you think it was in the milkshakes or something? And I thought that was funny, because that was the first thing that happened. I was like, oh, that could have easily been it. Although he didn't start acting weird until after he had the coffee. So I was like, it could be, I figured it wasn't in the drink. I was like, it could just be something officially in the air. And of course, it doesn't, impact Cass, which I think is why the woman had the weird reaction to him, where it's like, she thought Sam was cool, but she was looking at Cass a little funny. So he was going through, and he's like, I think we should investigate that tomorrow. And I was like, well, that's it. Like, he's already, that was 100%, like, he's done for that, that's it. And so then they, of course, cut to the guy who ran into Sam, where it's like, it's like the cell phone thing. It's like, like, I had a cell phone, like, I bought one in Houston for my daughter. And then he, like, snaps out of it, and it's like, who are you? Where am I at? And he's, he freaks out, and then his head explodes as he's running down the street. Also kind of funny because the lady's just like, honey? And it's just really weird. And then, of course, Sam ends up taking his place, which was my favorite part of the episode, I think, because he was just really, really funny as Justin and being like, you can't swear in this house and HE double hockey sticks. So that made me laugh, like, the whole way through, and just, like, his hairstyle and stuff with the part, like, it was just really funny. So I loved that. I thought it was hilarious. But it was a really good episode. I was like, this is cool. We get to see Sam and Cass on this really crazy mission. Cass ends up kind of doing everything on his own because he's like, all right, I know something's going wrong. I can't get through to Sam. So he realizes, like, it's the girl from the malt shop. Like, she's the one who wrote these letters. Everyone else is acting super, 50s old school, but she wrote all these crazy letters, so she's not affected by it. And then we find out that it was actually her dad. And I like the way they did that, too, because they don't flat out say, like, it's her dad until after Cass basically reads his mind. But I was like, I assume that that's, his daughter, because they didn't, they just didn't specify. And I was like, that's kind of interesting that they didn't throw it in the dialogue to be like, specifically, this is his daughter and that's why she's not affected. But as soon as he was like, yeah, for whatever reason, she's just not affected, she's like me, I was like, okay, then that's his daughter. That's the only reason he wouldn't force her to change. And, she doesn't really take off for whatever. Now that I think about it, I don't think they really explained that 100%. She was kind of just, sticking around a little bit. And I guess she does explain it herself. She does say, like, I told Mom I would stick around for you, but you kind of gone insane. So I like the way it ultimately ended up playing out, where she basically unlocks her own abilities and she makes him happy. And he's almost in like a comatose state where he's in his own head and he's happy, so he doesn't affect anything else within the town. So I thought that was interesting. A big thing is that I don't believe they officially say what they are pretty much in any way, shape, or form. They basically just say he heard like voices and stuff like that, and then he just said something. At first I thought it was going like the prophet route, and somehow that transitioned into him having certain capabilities because things are clearly really out of whack. So I just thought it was going to be kind of a Donatello thing where it was like the half prophet stuff, which we saw from the other episode, but he kind of got, for his in his sake at least, or in his case I should say, he got a better deal out of it where he just ended up getting some extra abilities. But I don't think they're really going into detail. He was like, I heard some voices and stuff, and then I was like, I wish, people were just in the shop, and then it was crowded, and then I realized I could just say stuff, and it happened. So I fixed the whole town and just made everything really cool and simple. And then he was just a crazy dude, so it was like, well, I'll just bring more and more people in so that we can just be our own little self-sustaining economy. And it's a crazy guy with superpowers. So I like the way it was handled, and his daughter kind of puts him, into a coma, and it's like, all right, well, case closed. He's trapped in his own head. He's happy, that's technically good, and not a lot of people ended up dying ultimately. So I was like, well, that's the best they can, hope for. I mean, it's a normal supernatural case for them. It was just like, all right, well, things are super weird, but in the end, 2 people died, and that was it, and they saved everybody else. So good episode, definitely funny. I'm excited to see where they are headed for Jack, and the whole element of him is trying to follow the path of Sam and Dean, where it's like, what would the Winchesters do, but he's doing it in a very odd state. Like I said, it was a mercy kill in a sense, and that was what he thought was a logical thing to do, where it was like, this is helping you and I'll help you see your friend, which also doesn't make sense. I mean, he just assumed, maybe that just speaks to how hopeful Jack is as a character. I'm like, he just assumed that this dude who is like eating eyeballs and stuff was in heaven. I'm like, I don't think that dude's in heaven, but he was just like, I'll send you to heaven with your friend. And I was like, I don't think that's where that guy went, but that's just my opinion on the matter. And I guess factually we know that that's not where that guy would go, but even if we didn't have the empty, I was just like, I don't think he would have gone to heaven, Jack. That's what was in my head when he said that. I was like, that's so sweet of him, but that's not where that guy is. So I just thought that was kind of funny that they had that in the dialogue. It was like, I'll send you to heaven. I'm like, that's not where he went. But definitely a good episode. Definitely like the comedy of it. Definitely like, the element of Jack still being good, but not being able to do it in the right way. It's pretty much like with Sam, but I don't think he's going to be half as callous. Like, Sam literally let Dean get bit so that they could track down like the alpha vampires and stuff. Like crazy stuff like that. I don't think Jack would go that far, for a case or anything like that. He still cares for his family, and he knows that he has to do good to help. But considering the way that he ended it, he probably could go that route, just like with Sam, where it's like, okay, it wouldn't be, like mission based. It would be like, well, I'm doing this to help. Like, you guys would help, but he wouldn't think of it, on all the different levels. It would just be like, well, I'm helping. So if I let this happen, I know I can save you, and then we'll save everybody else, instead of being like, oh, well, I can just stop you from having this crazy level of discomfort and pain, and we can still save everybody else. We just have to do it differently. It'll just be like, well, this is the easier way to help. And so we'll probably end up seeing that a lot more. Who knows what else we should really come to expect from the rest of the season at this point. But I know I'm looking forward to it. It should be exciting. The stuff with Sam, of course, early on they touched on it, then all the crazy stuff, because that was a big part of him, like being happy and stuff like that. But everyone being killed off in the bunker and stuff, that's affecting him. So he's affected. Jack is affected. Dean and Cass are kind of right in the middle where they're trying to figure that out. Plus, obviously, Dean has his own thing to worry about as well. So it's really just Cass right now. It's like, the kid's soulless. He's unhappy. This dude's trying to kill himself, and Cass is just kind of stuck there. He did make a reference, though. That was another one of my favorite things. When the dude said the guy's head exploded like scanners, Cass said, was it like scanners 1, 2, or 3? And I was like, that's cool. That is development for him. It took him a super long time to make his own reference, and he tried to do the quote with Dean, but he referenced the movie, and I was like, well, that's super cool. Like, he got a reference, and he actually asked a question. Slightly inappropriate question, but he asked the question based on the reference, and I was like, good on Cass. That's good. He's growing. So I thought that was pretty awesome. But love the episode in general, of course. We'd love to know what you all thought about it. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. And of course, with what we've seen from this episode for Jack and his quasi-soulless state, I would love to know where you guys think things are headed. I feel like he can't get worse. He could only get better, because now that he's himself again, he won't be burning off any more of his soul using his abilities, but now he's in this really weird middle ground. So, what do they do to get the rest of his soul back? Like, they would have to pretty much go to Billy, I would assume, and, do some crazy stuff like that. But I would love to know your predictions on how you think that'll end up playing out with him, and, in general, how that might even affect things going forward within the season, and, him doing weird stuff like killing the snake and thinking, like, that's the best way to help, is like, I'll just kill you, and then you'll be good. So I would love to know your predictions on how that's going to play out. And like I said, definitely want to know what you all thought about this episode in general. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.